The local government news roundup is supported this month by the National Growth Areas Alliance Emerging Growth Areas Forum. Australia is working towards 1.2 million new homes over 5 years, and growth councils are on the front line of delivering them. It's not just about land release and planning approvals, it's about getting the roads, drainage, schools, libraries and community infrastructure right from day one. And that's the focus of the 2026 Emerging Growth Areas Forum, hosted by the National Growth Areas Alliance on Tuesday the 4th of August at Hume City Council Town Hall in Broadmeadows. It's running alongside the NGAA National Congress. For the first time, council leaders from emerging and established growth areas will come together to share what's worked and what hasn't in managing rapid growth, covering organisational readiness, working with developers, building community trust, and making the case for state and federal investment. If your council is facing rapid population growth, this is a forum built for you. Registration is open now to all local governments. Head to the NGAA website, ngaa.org.au, to secure your place. Coming up, a regional mayor steps down ahead of a run for state parliament. The Victorian opposition pledges to scrap the mandatory glass recycling bin rollout. A New South Wales mayor and a councillor censured, while 2 councillors in 2 different states have been ejected from council meetings. Worksafe charges a Tasmanian council over a fatal workplace incident. An Adelaide councillor resigns and is set to challenge for the Lord Mayor's position. And local government reorganisation decisions in England. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy. All of that and much more just ahead on Australia's #1 local government news podcast. It's the Local Government News Roundup, brought to you with the support of our founding sponsor, the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. From Symphony 3, simple connected customer experiences, and from Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. Welcome to the podcast for Monday the 20th of July 2026. It's episode number 618. And heading the news out of Victoria, Macedon Ranges Shire Mayor Councillor Kate Kendall has resigned from the mayoralty, effective close of business this coming Friday the 24th of July. Councillor Kendall says she's stepping down to contest the state seat of Macedon at the upcoming Victorian election in November. She'll remain on council as a ward councillor. Councillor Kendall was elected mayor 8 months ago and says she'll work with the CEO and deputy mayor over the coming week to hand over mayoral duties. Her decision follows a similar decision made by the former mayor of Bass Coast Shire, Rochelle Halstead, who resigned in April to also contest the state election in November. The Victorian Coalition has promised to scrap the state's mandatory 4th household recycling bin if elected. Under the opposition's plan, local councils would regain the power to decide their own waste management systems, bypassing the state's purple-lidded glass bin directive. The coalition also intends to review and potentially expand the state's container deposit scheme. The policy decision follows a joint campaign by at least 35 local councils, which found 83% of surveyed residents opposed the mandated glass-only bin due to rising set-up and household costs. Hume City Council, the first Victorian council to formally reject the mandate in May 2025, has welcomed the election commitment and has called on the Labor government to follow suit and hand waste management decisions back to local government. The MAV says governments must work together to manage the fast-growing impacts of artificial intelligence. It's welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of a national AI framework and a new Office of AI, and says local councils need a clear role in that coordinated approach. The association is now forming a national AI working group for local government with the Australian Local Government Association, building on projects like an AI procurement register and research into AI in statutory planning. The MAV says councils should adopt AI with transparency, inclusivity and strong safeguards against risks like misinformation and harassment. Unlocking Avalon Airport's potential is now a key election push in Greater Geelong. The City of Greater Geelong and G21 councils are calling for bipartisan backing for major infrastructure investment, including a proposed $1 billion regional infrastructure fund and an airline attraction fund to grow passenger and freight services. They say targeted upgrades could unlock more local jobs, new business opportunities and stronger supply chains across the region. East Gippsland Shire councillors unveiled 12 key advocacy priorities ahead of the 2026 Victorian election. Mayor Jodie Ashworth says the council's priorities focus on critical regional needs that rely on state government funding, including a requested $1.5 billion statewide regional road maintenance package and a new emergency department for Bairnsdale Hospital. Other priority projects include drainage upgrades for flood resilience in Lakes Entrance and infrastructure to unlock housing development in Lucknow. And the Melbourne International Film Festival has expanded its footprint into regional Victoria, naming Warrnambool as an official regional host for its upcoming August program. Last week, Warrnambool City Council announced the partnership, which will see 10 acclaimed local and international films screened over 2 weekends at the Capitol Cinema, including the opportunity to see Sam Neill's final performances in a feature film. Mayor Ben Blaine said the initiative strengthens the municipality's winter events calendar and reinforces the city's standing as a highly entertaining regional hub. Now, before we head into New South Wales, let's have a look at how you've been responding to our polls on the Local Government News Roundup website. Last week's poll, which is now closed, asked if your council has introduced body-worn cameras for compliance and enforcement staff. And 54% of you said yes, they are already in use. A further 18% say they're planning to introduce them. 11% have it under consideration but have not made a decision yet. And 18% say outright no, we're not currently planning to either. Thanks for participating in that poll on our website. There's a new poll that's now live. And getting your thoughts on a very hot topic, is private prosecution an appropriate tool for holding councillors to account? 36% say yes, it fills a gap when other bodies won't act, but 43% say it should be left to police and integrity bodies. A further 14% think only with stronger safeguards against misuse, while 7% are unsure either way. To have your say, head to lgnewsroundup.com and vote in our weekly poll. We'll bring you the results in a few episodes from now. To our New South Wales report, and the behaviour of councillors is coming sharply into focus at a number of councils around the state. Let's start in Albury, where the City Council has formally censured Mayor Kevin Mack over comments made at a public rally calling for a new Albury-Wodonga hospital. The Border Mail reported last week that councillors discussed the matter in a confidential session, later voting to reprimand Mayor Mack for breaching the council's code of conduct. They considered his behaviour to be improper and likely to bring the council into disrepute. Councillor Mack has declined to detail the comments, calling the decision a caution and saying the council should now move on. Meanwhile, an AI-generated social media attack targeting Councillor Mack has sparked concerns over the impact of digital misinformation on local officials. A wanted poster accusing the mayor of financial crimes appeared on a ratepayer group Facebook page following proposals for significant rate rises to address a council deficit. The image has since been removed. Meanwhile, Councillor Mack confirmed council job losses are looming as operations are trimmed. Those specific numbers are yet to be determined. The council announced last week that it has reduced its projected general fund deficit from over $22 million to $18.9 million through an organisation-wide savings program, as consultation with the community on 3 potential special rate variation options remains open until the end of this month. An escalation at a Tweed Shire Council meeting on Thursday saw New South Wales Police called to escort a councillor from the chamber. Councillor Kimberly Hone was expelled by a 4-3 vote after refusing to retract or apologise for statements regarding fellow members and the Northern Regional Planning Panel. Councillor Hone did not leave the chamber after the resolution, at which time the police were called for assistance. The council said the action was taken in accordance with the state's model code of meeting practice. And Moree Plains Shire Council has formally censured Councillor Kelly James following an independent investigation into multiple code of conduct breaches. The resolution, passed at Thursday's ordinary meeting, relates to disruptive behaviour and acts of disorder at council meetings between December and February. Councillors referred the matter to the Office of Local Government for further action under misconduct provisions. This marks the third time Councillor James has been censured for similar misconduct since 2024. In other news from New South Wales councils, Wollongong City Council has partnered with Canva to launch a global first local government pilot. The initiative uses Canva's Global Goals platform to expand community engagement and gather feedback for the city's strategic planning. Residents are invited to submit their priorities directly through a dedicated portal, with the council planning to publish the collected data as an interactive visualisation to inform future service delivery. Sutherland Shire Council will write to the New South Wales Transport and Roads Ministers requesting a deferral of Lime's shared e-bike service. The council wants the rollout paused until the state's new micro-mobility regulatory framework is independently reviewed. Under recent legislation, councils in New South Wales are required to provide shared schemes, but Sutherland Shire is seeking further advice on how the rules will manage parking, safety and amenity impacts before operations begin. Cessnock City Council will lodge formal objections against two large-scale battery storage developments proposed for Rothbury. The council voted 7-6 to prepare urgent submissions of objection, arguing that the side-by-side Sunshine Estate and Rothbury projects constitute inappropriate industrial clustering in a rural tourism zone. Because both proposals are declared state-significant energy developments, they bypass local council approvals, leaving the final decision to the New South Wales Government. The submissions will raise concerns about visual, noise and environmental impacts. And Dubbo Regional Council has decided to review the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre project after rejecting all tenders, with every bid coming in over budget. Council says rising construction costs and ongoing delays mean the project as planned is no longer financially sustainable. A new assessment will consider what can be delivered within current funding constraints. We'll continue around Australia with more news in a moment, and we have some global news of interest too, with big announcements in England last week about local government reorganisation. But I just want to let you know there's also a special extra feature coming up today. We'll talk to two IT experts about an upcoming Symphony 3 webinar looking at how to deliver IT projects in local government and avoid some of the common pitfalls. Lots of practical tips for you too in that webinar. We'll tell you more about that and chat to Chris Webber and Simon Adcock a little later in today's edition of the podcast. Let's round up some more news from around Australia. In Queensland, the city of Gold Coast has signed a new MOU with Japan's Kanagawa Prefecture to help establish their region's first professional lifeguard service. The MOU builds on a 36-year friendship agreement and will facilitate biennial training and knowledge sharing between the Gold Coast Lifeguard Service and the Kanagawa Life-Saving Association. In other news, the city has expanded its beach access program, installing 3 new beach wheelchair lockboxes across the coastline to improve accessibility for residents and visitors. Tasmania's West Coast Council has faced the Burnie Magistrates Court after being charged by Worksafe over a fatal workplace incident. The safety regulator has laid 2 charges, alleging the council failed to comply with its health and safety obligations following the death of a worker in his 30s who was found beneath a ride-on mower in November 2023. Lawyers indicated the matter may be resolved without a full hearing, and the case has been adjourned to September for pleas. Pulse Tasmania reports that prosecutors are still gathering documents. There was drama at a meeting of Circular Head Council last week, resulting in a councillor being ordered to leave the chamber. The Advocate reported how Mayor Gerard Blizzard ejected Councillor Rodney Flowers from the meeting, with Councillor Flowers then trying to address the council from the public gallery as a ratepayer. Councillor Flowers, a known climate change denier, later said he didn't want to make a statement about anything in particular and just wanted to prove a point. Mayor Blizzard defended his decision, saying that councillors cannot use public question time to bypass meeting procedures. Glamorgan Spring Bay Council on the east coast of Tasmania has appointed Nick Maguire as its new Chief Executive Officer, following a national recruitment process that drew 25 candidates. Mayor Cheryl Arnold says Maguire's broad local government experience, including senior roles in Queensland and most recently as Manager of Economic Development of the City of Hobart, set him apart from a strong field. He starts on Monday the 3rd of August on a 4-year performance-based contract. Adelaide's South Ward councillor Henry Davis has resigned his position, effective immediately, and he says he'll challenge incumbent Jane Lomax-Smith for the Lord Mayoralty. According to the Advertiser, Davis has concerns about the council culture and administration. A council spokesperson confirmed that under the Local Government Act, a supplementary election will not be required to fill the vacancy. Elections are due next April. Adelaide Hills Council has reversed its controversial rating proposal following strong community pushback, just days after dismissing its chief executive. According to the Advertiser, the finalised annual business plan locks in a 6.8% rate increase, scaled back slightly from the original 7.6% draft. Mayor Nathan Daniels said the budget balances community priorities with long-term financial sustainability. The decision follows the sudden departure of CEO Greg Georgopoulos last week, who has since initiated legal action against the council regarding his exit. The cities of Marion, Charles Sturt and Port Adelaide Enfield have launched a strategic artificial intelligence partnership with Adelaide consultancy Bailey Abbott. The multi-year collaboration focuses on co-designing practical AI use cases, building long-term capability and establishing strong governance structures to safeguard data privacy. Bailey Abbott will invest more than $1 million into the initiative, which aims to safely improve service delivery and efficiency across the 3 local government areas, and the councils will retain full ownership and control of their data throughout the rollout. And to WA, where the Shire of Coorow has announced the resignation of Shire President Guy Sims, effective September 15th. Councillor Sims, who has served the local government for 9 years, will remain on the council until his term expires next year. The council expects to elect a new president at its September ordinary meeting. Coburn Council will ask WA's Fisheries Minister to create a 50-metre no fishing zone around the engineered reef at CY O'Connor Beach. The move follows community consultation, with 68% backing the sanctuary for safety and habitat protection. The Minister and DPIRD will make the final call. The Shire of Dardanup has announced the passing of former councillor and Shire President Danny Harris, who served on the council from 1988 to 1995 and again from 2011 to 2018, leading the authority as president for 3 years. Flags at the Eaton Shire office were flown at half-mast to mark his decades of community service and his funeral in Dardanup. And the Shire of East Pilbara is mourning the death of long-serving councillor and former Deputy Shire President Lang Coppin OAM. Coppin served more than 46 years on council, from 1977 until retiring in 2023, and was a strong advocate for remote roads and essential services across the region. He received an Order of Australia Medal in 2013 and was named Freeman of the Shire in 2024. Vale, Danny Harris and Lang Coppin. My chat with Chris Webber and Simon Adcock on delivering successful IT projects in local government is coming up very shortly, but a little bit of international news before we get there. Let's start across in New Zealand, where we now know the next Chief Executive of Christchurch City Council will be a Kiwi. Mayor Phil Major confirmed last week that 3 New Zealanders are the only candidates still in the running for the job. The press reported that more than 120 people from New Zealand and Australia applied for the role, left vacant after Mary Richardson stepped down in May. A committee, including the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and 3 councillors, has interviewed 5 shortlisted applicants and will now put 3 finalists to the full council of 17 for a final decision. The bones of a Wellington super city proposal are taking shape as councils rush to meet the central government's August deadline. RNZ reported regional mayors are discussing a single unitary council with 1 regional mayor, supported by a layer of 5 devolved community councils. While proponents argue the model will streamline decision-making, Wellington Deputy Mayor Ben McNulty has cautioned that managing the complex integration will not be a cheap rate-saving cure. And Marlborough District Council has voted to expand community consultation ahead of a potential merger with Kaikoura, according to a report from RNZ. While Kaikoura preferred a northern partnership over Canterbury alternatives, Marlborough councillors have emphasised that the Head Start process remains strictly voluntary. Detailed financial and asset due diligence is underway to draft a preliminary outline proposal due to central government by the 9th of August. There's reorganisation happening in the UK, where the local government secretary last week announced a fresh round of local government reorganisation decisions covering 14 areas across England. The changes will see 134 existing councils replaced by 38 new unitary authorities. Announcing the decisions in the House of Commons late last week, Secretary of State Steve Reid described the program as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to modernise council structures. He told Parliament the changes would improve local government for more than 15 million people, resulting in more than 250 fewer senior posts and nearly 3,000 fewer councillors, with projected net savings of around £1 billion by the end of 2032-33. Areas affected include Lancashire, Gloucestershire and Nottinghamshire. Elections to most new councils are expected next May, ahead of vesting day on the 1st of April 2028. Some MPs described proposals for their areas as utterly unacceptable and a disgrace, and decisions for some areas, including Cambridgeshire, have been put on hold. Bristol City Council has voted to become the UK's first official city of harm reduction, shifting its response to drug use towards support rather than punishment. Local Gov reported that the motion, brought by Greens councillors, calls for expanded harm reduction services, sector-led training and better preparation for nighttime workers dealing with drug emergencies. It also urges the government to rethink the Misuse of Drugs Act amid record high drug poisoning deaths in the city. And to Canada, there was anger in Ontario's Hamilton City Council chambers last week as councillors voted 10-6 to reject a proposed one-year ban on new data centres. The reversal comes after a lengthy closed-door legal session. Officials warned a moratorium would leave the city vulnerable to costly lawsuits and could kill major technology investments. The decision was met with heavy boos from residents in the gallery, who had gathered a 1,000-signature petition raising alarms over massive water use, noise and environmental impacts. And finally, Windsor City Council is considering covering some home security costs for every councillor, after Mayor Drew Dilkins warned that threats and harassment have escalated as civility in public debate declines. CBC News reported that the idea was discussed in a closed-door meeting last week, and City Administration has been asked to produce a report outlining options and the financial impact. Any program wouldn't take effect until the next council term, after October's municipal election. Well, ahead of a webinar later this week from Symphony 3, we're joined by two of the most experienced voices in Australian council technology. Chris Webber is a management consultant at LG Outcomes with a career spanning several regional and rural councils. And Simon Adcock is founder of LG Technology Solutions and spent 25 years in senior executive roles inside local government, including as CIO and Chief Operations Officer. They both join me now for a chat ahead of this webinar. Chris, firstly, hello to you.
Chris, how's it going?
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for joining us. You had 6 years overseeing information services at Tamworth Regional Council, I understand.
Yep, yeah. So my background prior to joining local government was in banking in Sydney and metro areas, and subsequently moved back to the country for lifestyle and got into that was my introduction to local government, and since then sort of have been working with a number of councils across the state in particular.
Excellent. And Simon, your work in local government, did that cover a number of councils?
Started in 2001 with the Gold Coast, and I've kind of moved my way slowly down the East Coast to end up in Sydney. So I've worked for 4 councils. Over that time, 4 years, I've been consulting with councils or various councils in Victoria, South Wales, South Australia.
Some of the biggest councils in the country there, particularly Gold Coast, to cut your teeth on.
Yeah, that was the first. They've got a bit smaller since then.
Yeah.
We're back into some of the bigger ones with some of the metropolitan Melbourne councils now, so it's good to get that mix.
So between you, you've got decades inside council technology on both sides of successful projects and ones that need rescuing. Why is this an important conversation to happen right now, Chris?
I think what we've seen I'll say government generally, but certainly in local government, there's a lot of councils in situations where they're being either forced or they're looking at their roadmaps for the future about how they're going to move forward and turn technology into the enabler that they want it to be. With
Right.
technology projects, sometimes they're the types of projects that only occur periodically. So you don't always have that experience in-house of having done large scale, even smaller scale change management processes. I think what's important is people have to be realistic and understand what can they expect when they go through these types of changes. So what are the things that will help them get good outcomes? What are the traps that they really need to look out for? How do we make sure we don't overestimate or underestimate the effort, depending on what it is, of what is required for these projects to be successful? And at the end of the day, make everyone's life better, however that plays out.
Yeah, a good aim to have, of course. And Simon, the description of this webinar includes a comment that it'll include some stories that never get told in public in a sector that's supposed to be very accountable to its community. Why do you think that is?
I guess it's about the having the honest conversations with ourselves as much as anything. Quite often these conversations never happen, and that's I guess the problem. We don't I think necessarily either celebrate our successes in local government or really talk about things that haven't gone as well and don't necessarily learn the lessons that we could from that.
Chris, what is the difference between a project that lands well and one that doesn't?
Preparation would be the key in my mind. I guess I treat IT projects are often viewed externally a little bit like social media. People tend to hear about the highlights reels, good, bad, or otherwise. And the ones that land well are generally the ones that have had better preparation. But we also have to be realistic that particularly when you get into smaller organisations, people have still got day jobs. They don't get to pull 5 people out of the organisation to just dedicate their time to these projects. So the better prepared you can be, the more successful they generally are. And also a better understanding of what are the issues we can expect as we work through, whether it be the preparation part, the go live part, or the post go live stages.
Right. Simon, you've led award-winning transformation programs and you've also stabilised ones that were in trouble. What to you is usually the first sign that a project might be heading off track?
Where there's misalignment with the people who are leading the project is the key one that seems to bite most frequently and hardest. If I come into a project and I sit in the steering committee and I ask every one of those people in the room what the project is trying to achieve, if I've got 5 different answers, then I know the project's going pear-shaped. Whereas if there is that alignment, if everyone in that room knows what's happening and is properly engaged, I'm pretty confident that project.
So in the seminar on Thursday, you're promising some practical tips for people. What is a piece of advice that you might have for a council that's just starting perhaps a digital transformation program, Chris?
We're going to echo some of what Simon just said, but make sure we know what we want to achieve out of it and practically what we think we can achieve out of it, because often those two aren't necessarily at the same point. What we would like to achieve is usually ideal world. What we can practically achieve is often not quite at the same point, or certainly not at the same point in the initial stages of a project. Breaking the project down into bite-sized chunks or into achievable components that can be managed through all the stakeholders, and then saying, all right, on day one, this is still a win for us.
Yeah.
And then at a point in time after, then we'll make some additional gains.
So the full session is going to go deeper into all of this. Simon, are you going to be taking questions from participants about their specific experiences and examples?
Yes, absolutely. If there's questions that are coming from the floor, then I'd love to get a chance to answer that.
Terrific. All right. So who is the ideal person who should be participating in the webinar, do you think?
I think anyone who is interested in IT projects in councils.
Right. So whether they're delivering them, whether they're the decision makers that sit above, perhaps finance people even?
Or if they're interested in, if they think that there's a roadmap where they are likely to be doing IT projects in the foreseeable future, then we'd love to see them there. So I think pretty much anyone who is interested in the space should attend.
And Chris, will the content be equally applicable to those from small councils or those from perhaps larger metro, better resource councils as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think probably the smaller councils are the ones who often struggle to get the assistance that the larger councils have, just purely from a resources perspective, not from anything else. So I think it will be important. The reality is if you have dedicated large teams that are working on these, they probably have a lot of the resources and the background to drive and have the time to make some of these things happen how you would like them to. The smaller councils are the ones that we tend to work with, that they're often trying to do these types of projects around their day job. So how do we try and give some practical help and guidance to how do I still do my day job, not overload my team, but still get a good outcome for everybody?
You've got, in a larger council, you can have a rolling program of IT projects. So you've got a team of people working on them, and a project manager will stop one project and start another one immediately. Whereas with most of the smaller councils, an IT project is something you do every few years. So you don't have that rolling experience that you would do at the larger ones. So the smaller councils could probably use an event like this, possibly more than some of the larger ones.
All right, so it's coming up on Thursday, the 23rd of July, from midday to 1 p.m. That's Australian Eastern Standard Time. The details are on the Symphony 3 website, but we'll pop a link in the show notes as well. Sounds like it'll be a well worthwhile hour to spend on keeping your IT projects on track. Thank you, Chris Webber from LG Outcomes and Simon Adcock from LG Technology Solutions.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
You'll find the link for that webinar in our show notes. Head to lgnewsroundup.com for that, and for more information about any of the stories that you've heard on today's edition of the podcast. Episode number 618 for Monday, the 20th of July, 2026. Our podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, Symphony 3, simple, connected, customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. Don't forget to vote in our weekly poll at lgnewsroundup.com, where you can also subscribe to be alerted to future episodes and breaking news direct to your email. The Roundup is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening, and bye for now. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more.